总台央视记者董斌，我现在所在的是海拔5200米的珠峰大本营。
身后呢，就是神秘而又迷人的珠穆朗玛峰了。
由自然资源部组织的2020珠峰高程测量活动正式启动，但因天气原因，先后2次冲顶未果。
每走一步，雪花。如果这次没有完成这个任务的话，是将来你无法弥补的一个最大的一种遗憾。
In April 2020, China's National Survey and Mountaineering Team surveyed Mount Qomolangma for a third time.
高程测量登山队现在登上了珠穆朗玛峰。
国家主席习近平同尼泊尔总统班达里互致信函，共同宣布珠穆朗玛峰高程。
Half a year later, on December 8th, after a rigorous analysis of data collected, the new altitude of Mount Qomolangma, the highest point on Earth, is calculated at 8,848.86 meters.
珠峰高程测量是我国对珠峰展开的第4次大规模测绘和科考，相关数据达到了历史最高测量精度。
Mount Qomolangma, standing on the top of the world, is covered by snow all year round. It is not only the summit of the planet, but also a cradle of glaciers, which indicate the health of the world's climate. And as the highest water tower on Earth, it is also a source of life. Early in the morning, Chen Pengfei and his colleagues are busy making preparations. They are packing down jackets, sleeping bags, cotton quilts, tents, and even a freezer. These are the items they will need to live on Mount Qomolangma for the next few days.
我们这次珠峰科考队主要包括8名成员，一些必要的野外科考工作，主要包括水质检测，还有空气样品的采集，以及绒布冰川的形貌扫描等。他要是今天晚上走的话，可能12号傍晚就到拉萨。
In 2017, the Chinese Academy of Sciences initiated a comprehensive survey of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, in which a survey of Mount Qomolangma will be an essential part. In it, the Academy's Northwest Institute of Eco-Environment and Resources is responsible for conducting scientific and quantitative investigations into climate change in the Qomolangma region, as well as surveying its river systems. Mount Qomolangma, the highest peak in the Himalayas, lies at the southern edge of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau. From the Qiawu-La Pass in the Xizang Autonomous Region's Tingri County, you can see 4 Himalayan peaks of over 8,000 meters. This survey will start by gathering ice and snow on Mount Qomolangma.
珠峰是青藏高原最高的区域，也是全球最高的区域。 所以很早呢，包括我们的导师和我们这个团队呢，就对珠峰的气候和环境变化非常感兴趣。
你可以看，这是气泡已经封闭了，里边有气泡。
Gongshi Cheng is a renowned Chinese glaciologist and deputy director of the Northwest Institute of Eco-Environment and Resources at the Chinese Academy of Sciences. Since 1997, he has been to the Qomolangma region 10 times for research. In 2004, he set up glacier monitoring devices at altitudes above 6,000 meters in the Qomolangma region. After 17 years, what changes have there been? Although Gongshi Cheng is not accompanying the team this time, he is the major planner and organizer of its survey project.
目前呢，现在全球变暖，到底看一看世界最高海拔的区域对全球变暖的响应是怎么样的？就是在全球变暖的时候，咱们看珠峰气候环境到底在怎么变。
Unlike the Antarctic and Arctic, which also lock up a lot of frozen water, the Qomolangma region has lush forests in its southern valleys. Subtropical, temperate, and alpine desert climate zones exist a short distance from each other, and each have their own distinctive flora and fauna. Lying in the hinterlands of the Eurasia continent, the mountain is also not far from large human population centers. Local climate change may therefore impact the survival and development of many millions of people. The average age of the Qomolangma Glacier research team is below 35. Many of its members are postgraduate students. Chen Pengfei is the most familiar with the Qomolangma region and has participated in 5 previous surveys. So he was chosen to be the leader, arranging schedules and taking care of the team.
其实挺担心的，因为这也是我第一次就是带这些人一块出去，人员比较多，任务也稍微多一些。我们出野外就是总是说安全第一嘛，尤其是在这个珠峰地区，这个高原反应，你不知道什么时候它就会遇到。然后下来可能还得2天，
下来1天不就行了？
我们路上还要
路上还要干活是吧？啊，那路上也2天，那就7、8天吧。
可能是8天左右。
Upon their arrival at Lhasa, the capital of Xizang, at an altitude of less than 3,700 meters, the researchers grow drowsy. This is a minor symptom of altitude sickness. On the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, with an average altitude above 4,000 meters, the oxygen concentration in the air is only 2/3 of that on the plains below. Oxygen deficiency can cause excessive fluid in the lungs and brain. The only solution is to avoid strenuous exercise and wait for the body to acclimatize. Often, the key is simply persistence. From Lhasa, the team proceed westward along the Yarlung-Zangbo River. Suddenly, they stop.
别走，咱们这边过去，小心点啊！这又是雅江，我们今天又遇上雅江，雅江就是从上面那边西边来了之后，在拉着这个地方，这在沟口就流过去了。
Although the team's study focus is the water environment and climate change of Mount Qomolangma, the Yarlung-Zangbo River is an important element of the local climate system too. It is the largest river in Xizang and the highest major river in the world, also given the name Heaven's River. The majestic mountain and the powerful river stand side by side, inevitably exerting influence on each other. So the research team needs to collect water and soil samples here and compare them with the samples taken previously to analyze changes in the local water environment.
现在属于枯水期嘛，这个雨季还没来，它这个水就很低。我们在这个丰水季再来采一遍的话，一年采上这么1、2次或者2、3次的话，就可以基本上能了解这个雅江整个西藏段丰水季啊、枯水季啊这个水质的一个变化。
In the Qomolangma region, most rivers are formed from the meltwater of snow and glaciers. As altitude rises, temperature drops, and snow brought in by the Indian monsoon is compacted into solid ice, which forms into glaciers along high-altitude valleys. Surveys of temperature and precipitation changes in alpine regions are based on studies of glaciers which fill the bottom of valleys and ravines throughout Mount Qomolangma. They include 15 enormous mountain glaciers that measure over 10 square kilometers each. Near to China's Qomolangma base camp on the Big Mountain's north slope, there is a Tibetan Buddhist monastery named Rongbuk Monastery. Small in size, it is often called the world's highest temple. The creek down from the temple is the Rongbuk River, which rises from the well-known Rongbuk Glacier. In recent years, the glacier has shrunk dramatically. Lower in the valley, only isolated fragments are left. With local temperatures rising, the Rongbuk Glacier's intact part has retreated to above 5,600 meters. Its total area is still around 86 square kilometers, making it the largest glacier in the entire Qomolangma region. Higher up, it is actually made up of 3 glaciers that converge. The East Rongbuk Glacier originates from the ice wall of the North Col at an altitude of more than 7,000 meters and joins another glacier which itself has been formed by the convergence of the Middle and West Rongbuk Glaciers. From this point on, it is called the Main Rongbuk Glacier, which measures about 23 square kilometers. In 1960, when a Chinese mountaineering team first arrived at Qomolangma's north slope, they were dazzled by its gigantic crystal serac.
25日中午，英雄的登山队员们迈开了向珠穆朗玛进军的第一步。
This was the first comprehensive survey of Mount Qomolangma made by Chinese scientists. It brought together the disciplines of glaciology, geology, and climatology. Research on the Rongbuk Glacier was a major focus. The first Chinese expedition to climb Mount Qomolangma traveled along the Rongbuk Glacier and opened the mountain's north slope route. It is this route, 61 years on, that Chen Pengfei and his fellow team members will follow. Upon their arrival at base camp, they set up small tents. Their down jackets and outdoor equipment are not as heavy-duty as the 2020 Mount Qomolangma elevation survey that made it all the way to the peak. But these young men are not lacking in dedication. After resting for a while, they begin preparing for their upcoming monitoring and data collecting mission. Their destination is the Rongbuk Glacier, as a representative example of the region.
严格上来说，我们把冰川分成4部分，分别是干雪带、湿雪带、深青带和附加冰带。一听这个名字，你应该知道 就是冰川的组成基本上要么是表面，要么是雪，要么是冰，对吧？
对。
可是我们现在已经看不到冰和雪了，所以它实际上是冰川后退的一种现象，我们把它叫做冰期雾。
A glacial till is the debris of a glacier, mixed with gravel and mud. It accumulates downstream as the glacier flows and melts. Though looking unimpressive, it is significant geological evidence for studying a glacier's melting speed.
通常来说，飞机飞得越高，它的分辨率是越低的。你飞得越低，分辨率越高嘛。但是如果你飞得太低的话，虽然分辨率高了，但是你需要飞的路线特别长，太浪费电池了。我们没有这么多电池，所以我们就选择一个合适的高度。比如说这次我们飞200米，那么它的精度呢就可以达到5.4厘米。
Gao Tanguang is an associate professor at Lanzhou University. The customized drone he has brought can continuously shoot photos and videos at a fixed altitude. It will then use satellite positioning to patch the images together to present the morphology of the Rongbuk Glacier. This is indispensable data for climatologists and ecologists to monitor its retreat.
因为我们现有的手段没有办法观测到这个冰期雾下面的冰到底有多少。比如说通遥感手段，我们根本看不到，是吧？这趟来呢，我们就是要通过这种RTK 这个高精度的这种定位。这个道理很简单，就是它的高度会下去的，因为冰融化了。那么我们这次做了之后呢，我们明年然后后年我们做连续的几期观测，我们通过这几期的数据，我们做一下对比，我们大概就能知道这个冰期雾底下的这种埋藏冰消融了之后，它会对于下游中下游贡献了多少的这种冰川融水。
Monitoring has shown the glaciers on Mount Qomolangma's north slope has shrunk by 30% since the 1970s. This is a 1975 video featuring the Rongbuk Glacier, shot by photographers from the China's Central Newsreel and Documentary Film Studio. For the team, walking on the glacier is like stepping into a wonderland. It is clear that the serac was located at a lower altitude and was much larger in size. The tallest ice block was nearly 60 meters high, dwarfing the tiny figures of people beside it. "40 years later, however, when the filming team arrives at the same spot in the same season, they find that the ice tongue of the Rongbuk Glacier has been replaced by gravel, and the serac has retreated to an altitude of above 5,900 meters. From the early days, the large-scale melting of Mount Qomolangma's glaciers aroused the concern of Chinese scientists. The Chinese Academy of Sciences set up a comprehensive research station for monitoring atmospheric and environmental changes on the mountain.
因为今天是月底嘛，最后一天应该是我们台站最忙的一天，我们要去各个观测点去下载数据。
Xi Jianhua's home is in Beijing. He first came to the Qomolangma station 8 years earlier. Every year, he stays and works here for at least 7 months. Despite the harsh conditions, he is happy with his life as a resident of Mount Qomolangma.
我们这次是去上我们好几个观测样地去下载数据，主要是 因为是我们这个按要求规定的，有一部分数据就是没能实现在线传输的，要是每个月要去下载一次数据的。主要去的大概有，比如说4450米的地方，4700米的地方，5200米的地方，这都有我们的观测样地。
Xi Jianhua is in charge of 6 observation sites between 4,300 meters and 6,500 meters. He regularly goes to them to collect their data and compares statistics on aspects of local climate and environmental change.
这台设备叫涡动观测系统，它主要测的那个内容，包括比如说，风、温、湿、压，然后就是太阳辐射、水汽的二氧化碳、甲烷、三维风速、土壤温度、降雨量，基本上这5200米的这个数据都能下载到。通过这个长期数据的积累，来分析该地区这些气象因素的变化。
A glacier's size remains the same when the rate at which it melts and at which snow falls on it are in general equilibrium. Once the equilibrium is broken, the size of the glacier will change. Monitoring records show that over the past 8 years, the average temperature of Mount Qomolangma's north slope has risen by 0.3 degrees Celsius, accelerating the melting of its glaciers. Snowfall, meanwhile, has barely changed. More surprisingly, the average temperature on Mount Qomolangma is rising at twice the speed of the global average, presaging a massive and inevitable glacial retreat. In this investigation of the Rongbuk Glacier, surveyors will not only keep track of the melting speed with drones, they also plan to install a few monitoring cameras to obtain the real-time data on glacial changes, a first in the history of Qomolangma surveys.
储存在它的储存卡里边，要过来取。嘿，这个相机将要在这里连续拍摄几个月，把整个消融器的状况都拍摄进去，然后同时它还会通过4G 信号传到我的邮箱里。
Li Shengnan focuses the camera on the glacial lakes formed by the meltwater of the Rongbuk Glacier. As days warm up, the camera can record the size expansion of the lakes and the speed at which the water level rises. It can also monitor and predict potential natural disasters caused by glacial meltwater.
同时，它也能记录一些气象，比如说下雪了、下雨了之类的这些气象事件，而且是每小时1张照片这样的更新频率。
The Rongbuk Glacier melts near to the Mount Qomolangma base camp, and its meltwater flows down from there to irrigate agricultural fields and pastures. If the water level of the ice lake rises too fast, it may be a threat to the safety and property of villagers living downstream.
冰湖啊，这都是临时性的，它的面积在增大的时候，它逐渐增大，它会溃决啊。它这一溃决的话，就是造成冰川洪水，我们学术上叫做冰湖溃决洪水，这种影响是非常大的。比如说短期内这个洪水爆发以后，就给河流的下游带来巨大的经济损失，这是一个不利的方面。
It might be thought that the Qinghai Tibet Plateau at high altitude, with its freezing and arid climate, is not good for growing crops. The central and eastern parts of the north foothills of the Himalayas, however, are agricultural zones for highland barley and beans. Spring is a busy season for farmers, Even unruly yaks are recruited for farming. Water is the source of life. However, as the Earth's climate warms, the melting of glaciers not only disturbs economic activity and life downstream, it also has a profound and far-reaching impact on their surrounding region's ecological, geological, and oceanic environment, and even on the long-term prospects of humanity. Particularly in the Himalayas, our planet's highest region, even small events can trigger global repercussions. This is why scientists are paying so much attention to it. It is commonly believed by scientists that large-scale glacier ablation from polar regions to the Himalayas is a consequence of global warming. In fact, the Earth has a prehistory, slowly gone through cycles of ice ages and interglacial periods, between which the largest temperature differences have reached nearly 100 degrees Celsius. Each alternation between a snow planet and a water planet has normally lasted a few hundred millions of years. Cycles involving smaller temperature changes have been more frequent. As the temperature rises this time around, some coastline cities and islands may be completely submerged. Paleontological research has shown that the first mass extinction on Earth, 440 million years ago in the late Ordovician period, was caused by global cooling. This reduced the total number of species by 85%. Conversely, after the ice age that followed, the global warming that reheated the planet was also a calamity to animals and plants that had evolved for life in the cold. The mighty mammoth, for example, began migrating to the Arctic region 20,000 years ago as the planet warmed. After struggling against shrinking habitat for 16,000 years, it finally died out. What influences the temperature of the globe? Based on current studies, the two major factors are the sun and the atmosphere. The sun fuels the activity of organisms, while the atmosphere prevents the Earth from being burnt by solar radiation. Substances in the atmosphere, such as carbon dioxide, absorb and keep in the Earth's heat to maintain a balanced temperature, which is the greenhouse effect. Once the balance is broken, either the Earth will absorb less heat or excessive carbon dioxide will reduce heat radiated, turning the planet into either an ice world or a greenhouse. Currently, the Earth is warming up, and even ice and snow on its highest mountain is being affected. The Qomolangma survey aims to find out exactly what is going on. After finishing their basic information gathering around base camp, the researchers set out for the source of the Rongbuk Glacier at a higher altitude. Except for Chen Pengfei, most of them haven't come to Mount Qomolangma before, nor received professional mountaineering training. The Rongbuk Glacier, 23 kilometers in total length, will take them 2 days to traverse, even with yaks to carry their luggage and equipment. In the high-altitude air, they need to stop and rest frequently, all the while breathing deeply and fighting fatigue. They also need to beware of hidden crevices, which may be dozens of meters deep. As their arduous journey progresses, they are aware that every inch they climb is a new personal mountaineering record. To reach the Serak zone of the Rongbuk Glacier, they must ascend to an altitude of 5,900 meters and traverse a 6,000-meter mountain ridge. But the beautiful crystal wonderland around them rewards their persistence. The documentary filming team shoots footage of the surrounding ice formations, which are elegant, magical, and stunningly beautiful. For the researchers, meanwhile, this ice contains enormous ecological information. The research team's goal is to reach 6,000 meters, where they can collect more first-hand ancient evidence on climate change. Interestingly, this forbidden zone is by no means empty and silent, but full of vitality. Since departing from the 5,200-meter base camp, birds, such as alpine chows and Tibetan snowcocks, have kept the team company. The Tibetan snowcock, athletic and sleek, is a welcome sight. Alpine chows and snow pigeons can even fly to an oxygen-deficient altitude of 6,500 meters, gracing the camp that is referred to as the Devil's Camp. More permanently than visiting birds, in the gravel and tills, an inconspicuous creature inhabits the mountain slopes at 6,000 meters. It is the Himalayan jumping spider. Originally, it was thought such spiders were carried in by the wind. But in fact, they are residents here, feeding on smaller insects and the debris of plants and animals. The Himalayan jumping spider, in fact, is one of the highest dwelling animals in the world. Although global warming will on balance be a disaster, temperature rises underway may enlarge these alpine creatures' zones of activity. The last camp of the research team is located within the realm inhabited by Himalayan jumping spiders at 6,350 meters. Though altitude sickness is depriving the surveyors of appetite, they have to take in calories. The researchers must overcome their altitude sickness to complete their sampling and data collection. The episode reminds the filming group of when they filmed the Qomolangma surveying team, who conquered Mount Qomolangma 1 year earlier. To gain enough energy to make it, the surveying team also had to force themselves to eat. As professional mountaineers, the 2020 team were used to the harsh conditions. These young investigators are not as hardy, but they must nevertheless endure.
我感觉还是挺顺利的，大家都身体状况也都不错，还是挺好的感觉。
This is the third time the filming team have climbed to 6,500 meters after last year's shooting of the elevation survey project. This time, their aim is to shoot rivers and ice instead of mountains, although, as before, they are also documenting the dedication of the researchers. The Qinghai Tibet Plateau is a vast, high-altitude region pushed up by the slow collision of the Indo-Australian plate and the Eurasian plate. The Himalayas, at the center of which lies Mount Qomolangma, are on the boundary of the plates, stretching from east to west for nearly 2,500 kilometers. With only 50 million years since the two continents collided and started pushing them up, the Himalayas are one of the world's youngest mountain ranges. During this time, the Earth has been through multiple freeze and thaw cycles. About 2.5 million years ago, the Quaternary glaciation started. The Rongbuk Glacier, like other glaciers on the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, first appeared during the Quaternary glaciation. Later on, it underwent expansion and retreat as temperatures changed, but the average depth of the ice cover remains 120 meters, with the thickest part reaching 300 meters. Under the ancient ice layer, rich information on prehistoric climate cycles lies waiting to be discovered.
我们对冰川呢有2个方面的研究，第一个呢是定期的对冰川监测，看到底冰川变化了多少，这是个宏观上的变化。第二个呢，我们通过冰芯的研究，我们比如说在珠峰钻取冰芯，因为冰芯是一个我们叫天然的档案馆，是气候环境变化的档案馆。我们把冰芯钻回来以后呢，通过分析它的物理和化学参数，就会知道历史时期咱们珠峰地区的气候和环境变化。
Early in 2013, Kangshi Chang led a research team to take an ice core sample at an altitude of 6,500 meters on the Rongbuk Glacier. The ice core has provided scientists with invaluable insights into the climatic conditions of the Qomolangma region over the past 2,000 years.
这个冰芯是非常明显的，你看从这个地方我们可以看到一些无化物，
这个黑的是吧？
哎，对，黑的这些无化物，这个是由于就是风把周边或者是大气里边那些地表的土壤或者是基岩的东西吹过来了。看你一节节的上来以后，就会就相当于把你历史书你一本一本拿到了，回去以后再慢慢翻着看，就这个。
What excited Kangshi Chang was his discovery from the analysis of the ice core, of evidence revealing the cause behind our current period of global warming.
从珠峰地区来说的话，其实最直接的证据是珠峰的冰川还是在强烈的退缩，这就是 完全变暖的一个效应。第二个呢，我们在珠峰钻取冰芯里边也能看到过去2000年历史中古大气的成分。我们就看到过去200多万年来，温室气体没有上升这么高。我们现在排放的温室气体已经达到415个 ppmv， 这在过去200多年是没见到的。所以，总之一句话，今天这种快速变暖是我们人类排放的温室气体造成的，它不是一个自然波动，而且这种变暖啊会带来很多风险，比如说极端的天气气候，比如说城市的洪涝灾害。所以这是我们人类导致这种快速变暖，而这种快速变暖呢，已经潜在的会给我们带来很多风险。
After a restless night at the 6,350-meter camp, the next morning, the young researchers fight off altitude sickness and get to work. It is a sunny day after the snow, and they hope to complete their data gathering and sampling as soon as possible.
小姨，你现在做什么呢？把这个大气孔采样的一套系统给它架起来。做什么用呢？就是把空气里的大气孔采在膜还有碳管上面。
Yin Xiu Feng is in charge of air sampling and analysis to determine how human activities have impacted air pollution around the Qomolangma region. Hu Zhaofu and Wang Xiaoyong climbed to a platform near the campsite to conduct a 3D scan of the glacier.
给我拍一下，我先调一下角度。角度，开始调好了我。应该是从这边开始。就这边。转一下。
3D scanning photos have a higher definition and larger information content than aerial photography. Processed with professional software, they can be used to discern subtle changes in the glacier.
三维激光台拍的图片呢，主要是包含了很多信息，一个就是我们的经纬度信息，也就是说我们激光打出的点呢，基本上都能反射回来，每个点呢就是一个经纬度坐标点。或者这些点呢，还包括一个高层的信息，就是说这个点具体是多高，它的经度也是非常高的，基本上是可以达到10毫米级别的。
Meanwhile, Chen Pengfei and his team member Guo Junming are leading a group to cross the Surat. They are going to the East Rongbuk Glacier Pass at 6,500 meters to collect snow samples. "17 years earlier, Kong Shi-cheng, their mentor, set up surveying poles there to monitor changes in the glacier. They have long since disappeared. It is likely the poles were washed away by melted snow, an indicator of the urgent need to investigate and tackle climate change. If the breathtaking glacier one day disappears, it should not be because we were ignorant of what was happening. Further observation and study will reveal not only how Qomolangma's climate works, but also how its water systems are formed and how they are evolving. This is a landmark investigation. The survey will reveal, in fact, how the mountain influences weather as part of the whole Himalayan range. As the highest peak in the Himalayas, it is an integral part of the Qinghai Tibet Plateau and the wider geographical environment, especially for weather and water. To analyze the influence of atmospheric circulation and the geological environment on Mount Qomolangma, researchers need to look at the wider picture, taking into consideration the whole Qinghai Tibet Plateau.
要知道，我们喜马拉雅山和整个青藏高原是亚洲10大河流的发源地，特别是印度河、恒河这些区域，冰川补给的水量是非常大的。那么未来这个水资源逐渐的减少，就会导致我们下游的社会经济用水带来威胁。
Glaciers and ice caps store nearly 75% of the world's freshwater resources. Besides the Arctic and Antarctic, the Qinghai Tibet Plateau, which is called the planet's third pole, has one of the world's richest glacier resources. Yet these resources are now threatened by global warming, with the region's glaciers shrinking by 140 square kilometers per year. What will happen if Mount Qomolangma, the natural water tower of China and Asia, stops replenishing the rivers rising from it? The Yarlung-Zangbo near Mount Qomolangma is one of them. While the research team is still busy sampling and collecting data, the filming team is called away on another assignment. They will go to the source of the Yarlung-Zangbo River in Nagari Prefecture to film a second group of scientists who are investigating Himalayan river systems. As they return to base camp, the team members find their skin has been burned by harsh, high-altitude sun rays.
那冰川里边除了雪就是冰，全晃眼睛，全往里边晃啊！
没戴墨镜？
戴了吗？全脸上就这地方，包括这个背负背着呢。
我隔离多远？他们还在后边啊？
多远？不知道。 我回去1个小时以上。他现在没信号的话，你谁也别动，不用。还远着呢。对，还远着呢。微信边啊。没信号。
往前迎。
Sudden snow has blocked the way, and it is not until midnight that all team members are back at base camp. With no time to take a rest, they must set off again immediately.
慢点，慢点，怎么样？